Phoebe Omile was born in 1902 and right out of high school decided she wanted to fly, figured out a way to get her hands on an airplane, and taught herself to do stunts, hoping to sell them to the movies.
Phoebe Fairgrave was still a teenager in 1921 when she met World War I veteran Jannan Omile. He was the only pilot at the airport willing to teach a woman how to fly. They teamed up to fly stunts for movies and go barnstorming across the Midwest, with Phoebe dancing atop the wing of Vernon's plane.
She was both brave and very determined about what she wanted to do. But it was scary times. You know, there weren't any safety belts or, no gear of any kind. She put suction cups on the bottom of her sneakers in order to help her keep her footing on the wings. It was not very good life expectancy for that sort of work. Plus, it didn't pay worth a hoot. Again, in Vernon's logbook, he's keeping track of money in and money out. And sometimes they didn't clear $10 for a month.
The 1922 flying season ended at the Mid-South Fair in Memphis, and so did Phoebe's barnstorming career. Phoebe and Vernon had to pawn their luggage to get enough money to pay their hotel bill. They had gotten married earlier that year, and Vernon felt that Memphis offered good opportunities, so they settled here. By 1926, they had teamed with other air enthusiasts to open Memphis's first airport. Vernon and Phoebe established Mid-South Airways, offering flying lessons, cargo transport, crop dusting, and airplane sales.
And they're trying to build a legitimate business. What really helps them, actually, is the flood of 1927. But now this is a way to establish a useful legitimacy, and they were flying the mail from Little Rock. They were picking up people stranded on sandbars. They were bringing in medicine. This was really, really dangerous work. And all of a sudden, people start rethinking about what this flying stuff's all about.
That same year, the world's most famous aviator stopped in Memphis on his cross-country celebratory tour promoting aviation. Within 2 years of that visit, Memphis opened its first municipal airport, with Jannan Omile as manager. In 1928, Phoebe became the first woman to enter the Ford Reliability Tour, a 6,000-mile cross-country exhibition of aviation safety. She flew alone.
She refused to take anybody, including a navigator, because she said if there's a man along, they'll think he did all the flying. So I'm going alone.
The National Air Race of 1929 marked the first time women were allowed to compete. Phoebe flew alongside 20 other women, including Amelia Earhart, and she won her class. After the 1929 event, Phoebe became one of the founders of the 99s, the first organization of female pilots in the country. Amelia Earhart was elected as the organization's first president.
She and Amelia were probably as close as anybody was to Amelia.
In 1937, Amelia was planning her fateful around-the-world flight when Phoebe paid her a visit.
She was very, very concerned about Amelia and that last trip Amelia made, to the point where she went to Miami the night before Amelia took off and said, "Don't do it."
Phoebe's greatest air racing success came in 1931, when the National Air Races allowed women to compete in a handicapped format against men. She beat a field of 63 entrants, including 46 men, to take the title.
And that was big. That was really big. She was national news everywhere when she won that. It's Eleanor Roosevelt who sends her a telegram and said, "I'd like you to consider campaigning for my husband who's running for president in 1932.
Phoebe flew around the country campaigning for Roosevelt. Her work and her friendship with Eleanor Roosevelt earned her a political appointment in the new administration. In 1933, Phoebe became the first woman to hold an executive job in federal aeronautics. But the transition to a desk job wasn't an easy one.
A woman in a man's world, all of those sorts of things were very difficult. Still, her expertise was very much valued, and she in fact worked really closely with engineers at Langley Field and in aircraft design, in safety features and that sort of thing. They really paid attention to her.
Unfortunately, it didn't take Phoebe long to hit the glass ceiling.
The only way she thought she could challenge that was just to be as competent as she could, to demonstrate that she could do this job and do it well. But it's very frustrating when it's not recognized.
In 1936, Vernon died in a plane crash as a passenger aboard a commercial flight. After his death, Phoebe stopped flying. She remained a bureaucrat throughout the war years, but became disillusioned with the Truman administration and its negative attitude towards civil aviation. In January of 1952, frustrated and embittered, Phoebe resigned from government and walked away from aviation altogether.
She becomes extremely right-wing and ends up sort of devoting her last years to fighting those kinds of fights.
The last 20 years of Phoebe's life are almost a mystery, as she becomes increasingly obsessed with anti-communism, states' rights issues, and right-wing politics.
She finally ends up in Indianapolis, Indiana in 1970, and she dies 5 years later in a flea bag hotel, the kind of place where you keep your milk on the windowsill to keep it cool. It's very, very, very sad. Completely alone, completely estranged, broke, victim of lung cancer, poverty. What a sad end.
Phoebe Omile was buried alongside her husband Vernon here in Memphis at Forest Hill Cemetery. One obituary writer wrote, "Without a plane, she was like a bird with a broken wing."